Now, why don't we continue reading Roar of the Ganges, a book written by Swami Taratmanandaji, who has given me his blessings in reading this to all of you. I emailed him several times explaining that I intended to read to our Sangha. No problem at all, he said. He has written his best prayers and wishes here. And I asked, should I encourage our Sangis to buy your book, since I feel like I'm giving them a free audiobook? He said, no, I will be making this book free as a PDF soon, so you don't have to even encourage your viewers to buy it. And I thought that's a very nice gesture. Would I mind turning down the music for the reading? Not at all. Let me do so. And that's a good idea. Here, I'll turn it down 11%. This book is somewhat of an autobiography, but not over his whole life, simply from his spiritual life, where he left his computer consulting firm to go explore Vedanta, the study of the Vedas, on a little bank of the Ganges, also known as the Ganga river, very spiritual place, near the city of Rishikesh, North India. Here he's staying at the Swami Dayananda ashram. All rivers in India are considered sacred, but among them, the Ganges is the most revered. The river is personified as a loving, wish-fulfilling mother goddess, addressed by her Sanskrit name, Ganga. Many Hindus believe that bathing in her purifying waters just once is sufficient to wash away all of one's sins. Sadly, its waters are no longer pure in a biological sense. They have been polluted by the masses of humanity that live alongside its banks. The river flows eastward through one of the planet's most densely populated regions on its 1,000-mile journey across the plains of North India to the Bay of Bengal. But here in Rishikesh, the Ganges is still pristine, like a ribbon of crystal curling through the mountains from its origin 100 miles to the north, where it emerges from an ice cave at the foot of a mammoth glacier. The perennial flow of the Ganges, descending from the Himalayas, is said to symbolize the flow of wisdom from the ancient sages down through generations of teachers. This stream of spiritual knowledge is sometimes called Jnana Ganga, the sacred river of knowledge. Just as the origin of the Ganges lies in the remote Himalayas beyond all civilization, the source of Vedic wisdom lies beyond the mundane world in the inspired vision of ancient sages. And just as the Ganges waters purify souls by removing sins, so too spiritual knowledge purifies by removing the stain of ignorance. Ignorance is the ultimate obstacle to gaining the wisdom of the ancient sages. When that ignorance is destroyed, the sage's vision of reality becomes as transparent as the crystalline waters of the Ganges here in Rishikesh. A verse from the Bhagavad Gita that Swami Prakash had discussed in a recent class said, "There is nothing in this world so purifying as knowledge. one dedicated to the practice in due time discovers that very knowledge within their own self, which incidentally is from the same chapter that we released on the ASMR channel on my YouTube, linked in the link tree in my bio. That's chapter 4, Jnana Yoga. Sitting on the rock, surrounded by the river's surging current, the Ganges herself seemed to be talking to me. Her soothing voice stilled my mind and gradually pervaded my awareness, crowding out everything else until no other thoughts remained except the sweet, comforting sound of rushing water. Then the river's voice grew softer, more transparent, more delicate, as if it were receding into the distance. Before long, it faded into silence. Silence. Not an empty, dumb silence, but a conscious, luminous, peaceful silence. An aware, full silence. A perfectly fulfilled silence. I must admit that my meditations do not always reach this state. Sometimes my mind goes on chattering wildly, and the arsenal of meditation techniques I learned over the years seem useless. At other times, I fall into a sleep-like stupor, or a dreamy fantasy land. But often my mind becomes profoundly still, peaceful, and blissful. You have probably had similar experiences while meditating, or possibly while walking, in a place of exquisite natural beauty, or while listening to your favorite music. Yes, I see you, Shadow Bear, and you have awakened from your cosmic slumber. Here, I hear your lovely voice. You are so good at expressing yourself. Yes, he wants that door open. Here we shall open it for him. I will do so. One moment, please. Even though we don't speak the same language, he is so good at conveying what he needs me to know. I am very Canadian with my pajamas, my plaid pajamas, aren't I? You know, I go everywhere in my pajamas. I even went to a nice restaurant yesterday in them. Yes, you probably had similar experiences of that peacefulness, blissfulness, while listening to your favorite music, for example. In these experiences, the habitual churning of our minds subsides temporarily, setting us free from the usual mental clutter to enjoy a moment of silence. A moment of silence is not a great achievement. It is, after all, just silence. But that silence can be a great teacher. Volumes of writings could never convey its simple, wordless message. As the world receded from my awareness, as my thoughts, feelings, and memories subsided, I felt myself increasingly filled by peace and contentment. Where did that sense of peace and contentment come from? It could not have come from outside. I was withdrawn from the world. Nor could it have come from thoughts, feelings, or memories. They were fading away into silence. That peace and contentment could only have arisen from a source deeper within. Happiness is within is a platitude much repeated, but perhaps not thoroughly understood. In the experience of meditation, however, its meaning becomes quite clear. In meditation, happiness is not the result of acquiring something. It arises naturally as thoughts wane. Mental activities apparently obstruct happiness, preventing it from arising. The process of meditation has been compared to cleaning a dirty mirror. When you remove the thick layer of dust, your own image suddenly becomes clear. In the same way, when mental obstacles are removed through meditation, peace and happiness, which abide in the hearts of all, naturally become manifest. I'm happy you're here, Inevitable. As the Buddha and other great sages discovered, it is the presence of desires that obstructs happiness. When a desire is satisfied, you become happy not because you obtained or accomplished something, but simply because the desire is gone. The source of happiness is actually within yourself, not in the desired object. To illustrate this, consider a child who likes ice cream and, that's me by the way, naively assumes it to be the source of happiness. If 1 scoop of ice cream makes him happy, 2 scoops would make him twice as happy, and 3 scoops that much more. By this logic, eating 5 gallons of ice cream would give him ecstasy rather than a severe stomachache. Obviously, ice cream cannot be a source of happiness. Nevertheless, it makes him happy. When he enjoys his favorite flavor, the delightful experience captivates him. He is momentarily enthralled by the experience. As long as he is caught up in the experience, all his desires are temporarily suspended. And in the absence of his desires, he enjoys a moment of happiness. The teachings of Vedanta are explicit in showing how the true source of peace and happiness lies within. This is vividly revealed in a dialogue between 2 sages, husband and wife, recorded in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the teachings from the great Brihad, forest, Aranya. Yajnavalkya lived in that forest with his 2 wives, Maitreyi and Katyayani. Yajnavalkya was a celebrated sage, a teacher of kings, and the bold champion of many philosophical debates. Polyamory, I respect it. He wanted to leave his home and take to a life of solitary meditation. He said to Maitreyi, "Dear, I want to leave our home. Let me make arrangements for you and Katyayani. The arrangements he proposed to make were financial. He wanted to leave sufficient wealth so that his wives could live comfortably in his absence. But Maitreyi, being as sagacious as her husband, did not agree to this arrangement. She was somewhat advanced of age, and reflected on the fact that all comforts would be useless after her death. She astutely asked her husband, "But dear, if this entire world with all its wealth were mine, would it make me immortal?" Yajnavalkya's answer was simple and honest. "No, dear. You will live as comfortably as wealthy people can live, but there is no hope for gaining immortality through wealth." Maitreyi was not satisfied with mere comforts. She knew they were not the source of happiness. She thought lasting fulfillment and peace, perfect and contentment that could not be shaken even by the threat of death. That's what she sought, Therefore, she asked, "What is the use of anything that will not make me immortal? I want to know the truth that you have discovered. Give me that alone." Yajnavalkya saw that his wife understood the limitations of worldly pursuits and that she sought enlightenment instead. He was delighted that she shared his vision of life. He said tenderly, "Your words are as dear to me as you yourself are dear to me. Come, please sit down by me, and I will tell you. Contemplate well what I am about to say." In a series of almost identical verses given below in condensed form, Yajnavalkya taught her that whatever we pursue for the sake of happiness, whatever we truly love, is not the actual source of love. The real source of love is one's true self. He says, "It is not for the husband's love that she is loved, but for one's own love the husband is loved. It is not for the wife's love that she is loved, but for one's own love the wife is loved. It is not for wealth's love that it is loved, but for one's own love wealth is loved. It is for one's own love that everything is loved." In Yajnavalkya's poetic vision, the presence of people and things dear to us invokes the love already present in our hearts. Within each person is the true source of love, happiness, peace, and contentment we all seek. According to Yajnavalkya, that source is one's true self, the Atma. Traditional teachers have long taught that one's true nature is distinct from personality. The true self, they declared, is independent of the physical body, independent of the forces enlivening of the body, and independent of the mind with all its facets. Some modern teachers refer to this as spirit. Others call it soul or self with a capital S. Each of these expressions are meaningful, but confusion can easily arise because the words have different meanings for different people. To avoid any possible confusion, I will eschew them and use instead the Sanskrit word employed by traditional teachers, the Atma. For Yajnavalkya, Atma is the ultimate source of all love, happiness, and fulfillment. As his dialogue with Maitreyi continued, he said, the best way to seek fulfillment is to look within oneself and discover Atma. O Maitreyi, he spoke, Atma should be discovered. It should be known through a teacher, reflected on through reasoning, and meditated upon steadfastly. Here, Yajnavalkya directs our attention to a radical change of orientation that takes place in the spiritual pursuit. As long as the source of happiness is mistakenly assumed to be outside of oneself, a futile struggle to gain lasting happiness and contentment ensues. This struggle, known as the life of Samsara, or worldly existence, continues because lasting fulfillment can never be achieved by merely satisfying desires. The life of Samsara has been compared to drowning in the ocean. A man struggles to the surface for a gasp of air, but as soon as he fills his lungs, another wave crashes down, submerging him once again. The struggle for happiness, while less dramatic, is no less frustrating. Moments of happiness are fleeting. We satisfy desire after desire, yet lasting fulfillment remains elusive. Yajnavalkya's teachings address those who have recognized the futility of trying to satisfy all desires. He points the way to freedom from the struggle of samsara, freedom found through spiritual pursuit, in which one is led to look within and discover Atma, the true self. And if the lives of enlightened saints are any indication, those who have discovered the true source of love within become filled with love for others, a love that knows no bounds. And so, let us pause our reading of Roar of the Ganges there for tonight. And before we close our Sangha, we will open with a chant directed by none other than Swami Tadatmanandaji again, the author of this book, sent to us by his devotee, Sky Guardian.